Hey Nats Chat, in today's show you will hear our real-time reaction to the news that Luis Garcia Jr. has been traded to the Yankees. We began taping just after 5 p.m. on Sunday with a strong idea that he would be dealt. And then the news of who New York was sending to the Nationals in exchange for Garcia came out in the middle of our recording, which Mark and Al were on top of. All of our reaction comes in the opening segment, which is roughly 20 minutes long. The Nats begin their next homestand this upcoming Friday night against the Reds. Walter Sports Bar will be open before and after the game, just across the street from the ballpark.
Braves fans coming to their feet. Iglesias sets, delivers the pitch, swing and a miss. Struck him out with a slider. The game and the series over. It's a 4-game sweep for the Braves. Iglesias comes on to close it out, get his 24th save of the year, and the Braves improve to 22 games over 500 with a win. And for the Nationals, 5 straight losses, 6 in the last 7. They fall 3 games under at 55 and 58.
And welcome to Nats Chat. I'm Al Galdi, host of the Al Galdi podcast. I'm joined by Washington Nationals insider Mark Zuckerman of NatsJournal.com. He's at Truist Park in Atlanta. The Nats have picked a bad time to have a bad stretch in their surprisingly good 2026 regular season. Nats now have lost 5 consecutive games and 6 of the team's last 7 games as we arrive now at 2026 MLB trade deadline day. The 2026 MLB trade deadline is on Monday at 6 p.m. Eastern. Sunday afternoon, a 4-2 Nats loss at the Atlanta Braves, completing a 4-game sweep. The Nats now are 55 and 58 with a run differential of plus 16. Braves now a National League East best 67 and 45 with an NL East best run differential of plus 108. And Luis Garcia Jr. appears to be as good as gone. He was to be the Nats starting first baseman and number 2 batter for Sunday afternoon, but he was a late scratch. Now, remember, he was dealing with knee soreness earlier in the series, so in the moment, you thought, well, maybe it's just the knee barking, the knee acting up. No, it very much looks like he is about to be traded as we are recording this in the early Sunday evening hour, early in the 5 p.m. Eastern hour. Garcia looks to be on the verge of being gone, although, Mark, as you told us prior to us beginning this taping, Garcia, as best as we can tell, was traveling with the Nats for their 4-game series at the Philadelphia Phillies, right?
Yeah, he's still taking the team charter to Philadelphia. I think the bus is probably about leaving right now, so I suppose things could change. But for what it's worth, if it is the Yankees, and so far most of the rumors have circulated around them, they play at home on Monday evening, and it's a pretty easy trip from Philadelphia to New York. So it kind of makes sense anyways. Fly with the Nats to Philadelphia. Maybe at some point they get the official word and there'll be time for him to then get from Philadelphia to New York, if that's the answer. I'll admit this was a little bit of a strange situation. I don't know that I've dealt with one quite like this, where everyone's essentially acknowledging that something is probably going to happen, but it's not official yet. But they were being open about it and basically talking as if it will be happening. And I give them a lot of credit for that. It could be an uncomfortable situation.
You haven't seen anything?
Not officially, no.
Okay, I haven't either.
Okay.
Yeah, I've heard something was close.
But as we left that clubhouse post-game, the feeling, the sense that they were all portraying was that they do expect that Luis Garcia is going to be traded and potentially to the Yankees. It's just a matter of when that will actually become official.
Yeah, I mean, it's a mix of both sad and happy. There's a new chapter in my career. So, yeah, 50-50 right now.
If he doesn't get traded until mid-flight, does he still get a per diem for Monday in Philadelphia? I'd like to know the answer to that question. But let's bottom line this, okay? The Nats already have traded infielder Curtis Mead, certainly appear to be in the midst of trading first baseman Luis Garcia Jr. Would you concur that Garcia being traded would certainly seem to heighten the likelihood that starting pitcher Foster Griffin is being traded?
Yeah, I think the events of the last week on the field, what the team has done in losing now 5 straight and getting swept by the Braves, is going to push Paul Taboni into sell mode. And we said all along that they were probably going to base some of these decisions on how this last week before the deadline went. Well, it went about as horribly as it could if you were a part of that group that was hoping they would be buying and still trying to make a run at it this year. Now, that doesn't mean that whatever team is left at the end come 6 p.m. on Monday can't still be trying to win games and might not still believe within that clubhouse that there's a chance to turn it back on. But if you're the front office and you don't really have a choice, August 3rd is the trade deadline. You've got to decide where are we going with this. The events of the last week, I think, have probably pushed them to say that it is appropriate to sell off your most valuable assets, provided, as I've said all along, that you're getting something of real value in return. And this is the key. We still don't know yet for sure what the Nats would be getting for Luis Garcia, and we don't know what they might get for Foster Griffin before 6 o'clock on Monday. So I think you do have to kind of temper it with that. But if they're being offered what they believe is fair and appropriate for them, I think they are prepared to say, yes, we rode this out as long as we could, hoping the team could stay playing at a level high enough to suggest that it's worth going for it now. But I think you have to acknowledge that the last few days have kind of confirmed that they did not do their part to force the front office to buy. And so I think you're going to see sell. Now, that doesn't mean they can't also still be acquiring some pieces too that could help them in the short term. I wouldn't be shocked if they did something like that. But I think the overall landscape here when we get to 6 o'clock Monday sure feels like it's more about focusing on next year and beyond as opposed to moves that would be helping you to win this year.
I think that's what becomes especially interesting. You're selling Meade, you're selling Garcia, you're likely selling Griffin. Is it still worth it to try to trade for bullpen help for just this season? Like, again, I come back to this idea. If you're trading for bullpen help, I would think that you really now want it to be for bullpen help that's under control beyond this season, just because to sell Meade, Garcia, and Griffin and then trade for a rental of a reliever, it just wouldn't make a ton of sense. So it's going to be really interesting to see what the Nats do from that perspective. Another component in all of this is in the jumbled mess that is the National League wildcard race. The Nats have lost some significant ground here in recent days. As we are recording this, the Nats now are 4 games behind the Philadelphia Phillies for the third of 3 NL wildcard spots, and that margin may well be 4.5 games by the time we're done recording this, because the Phillies, as we speak, are leading at the Baltimore Orioles 8-0 in the top of the 6th in a game that dealt with a lengthy rain delay. So, it's not just that the Nats have been struggling, it's that all of a sudden they are, not nearly within the striking distance that the team was in recent days. Now, I still would say, you look at the teams that make up this NL wildcard race, very underwhelming lot for sure, but the Nats have lost some significant ground here with this ongoing 5-game losing streak.
Yeah, and they picked the worst possible time to have their worst week in months, maybe their worst week of the season, if you really want to look at it that way. And I think that is probably more than anything what's tough in that clubhouse right now, that they knew that as much as they say, hey, this is out of our control, it's up to the front office what to do, it kind of was in their control somewhat. If they had been able to play the way that they have at times this year, they could have put together a much better week and put the pressure on the front office to go all in. And you heard Taboni say a week ago, 10 days ago, whenever that was after the Meade trade, when he said that he felt they had earned the right to give a shot at this.
These guys deserve it, and it's not to say we're going to do anything irrational or it doesn't make sense with our greater strategy here.
But things can change, and you lose 5 in a row and lose them in the manner that they did. I don't think it's wrong for Taboni to look at that and say, the odds of us turning this around and making it this year are pretty slim, and it's my job to make sure that we are better positioned in the long run to win. And that may be a tough pill for a lot of these guys to swallow, but they really did not play well this week. They didn't hit. They did not play good defense. And they pitched okay, but at times not very good at all. And so you put that all together against a good team like the Braves, and I would defy anybody. Here we go. Breaking news, the Yankees are acquiring Luis Garcia from the Nationals, according to Jeff Passan of ESPN. Not a surprise. We've kind of seen that coming here for a while. We don't know yet who they're getting for him, but it looks like this one is actually going to go down now.
There you go. Well, like you said, until we know the compensation, it's hard to truly judge the trade, but at least now we know that the trade is in fact happening. Some breaking news here on the Nats Chat podcast as we record this again in the 5 p.m. Eastern hour on Sunday. Well, look, Luis Garcia Jr. is a guy who was always talented. He is someone who I know dealt with a lot over his time with the Nats in terms of being demoted and in terms of being called out for not being in proper shape and in terms of position change. Went from right shortstop to second base to then first base. But I give him a ton of credit for the season that he has had. And I know sometimes athletes take being traded as an insult. I think in this case, if you're Luis Garcia Jr., you take it in the exact opposite way, which is I played myself into being someone appealing enough to where a team like the Yankees, a perpetual win-now team like the New York Yankees, wanted me. Garcia is having the season of his life. You do wonder if the Nats in trading him are doing so because they're not necessarily 100% buying in on this being the true Luis Garcia Jr., but he has been outstanding for the Nats this season, offensively speaking. And, to me, it's like you give him a salute for the work that he has done for this team this season.
100%. To see where he has come from debuting as a child, really, in 2020 to becoming one of the best hitters in the National League, and I guess now going to the American League, it's been nothing short of remarkable. And yes, you give the organization credit for what they've done, but really, most importantly, you give Luis Garcia credit for what he has done to turn his career into a whole new thing this year. The move to first base maybe helped him focus on his offense. He worked on his bat speed. He worked on hitting the ball in the air a lot more. He worked on better pitch selection and not just kind of flicking the bat out on a pitch 3 inches out of the zone and trying to poke it in the left field for a single. He was really looking to drive the ball as much as possible. And, he admitted that the emotions are kind of 50-50 right now. He is the longest tenured player in the Nationals organization, signed as a teenager out of the Dominican Republic more than 10 years ago, debuted in 2020. He has been both in the organization and in the big leagues longer than anybody else on this team. When he first came up, he's in a clubhouse with Ryan Zimmerman, Juan Soto, Max Scherzer, Steven Strasburg, Trey Turner. He now departs as the senior guy and a legitimate clubhouse leader. And so, yes, I know what you're saying, and I think once he gets there, he's going to be energized by this and the idea that he's now going to become a key player on one of the premier franchises in baseball for ideally the next year and a half. But I think a lot of him is also really sad to see a long chapter. His entire professional baseball life is with the Nationals organization. He is the last link to the old championship roster. There's nobody left who played with any of those guys. And I think he really deep down hoped that he would be a part of this next generation that won here. I don't think he wanted to leave. Now, you can embrace it once it happens, and I'm sure he'll fit in well in New York and will really thrive there, you hope. But I'm sure he's feeling a lot of strange emotions right now to have to leave the organization where he truly grew up and went from a child to a man and a really, really good baseball player for them.
Nats are getting 4 prospects from the Yankees per the latest item from ESPN MLB insider Jeff Passan on X. You look at Garcia, so he's in his age 26 season. He's still so young. He's only under team control, though, through next season. And so, that does bring us back to this idea of if you're not going to extend him, then you really should be thinking about trading him. And again, I wonder, just if you're Paul Taboni, do you view Garcia as someone who, okay, this is what he now is, or are you doing what you did with Curtis Mead, which is you're selling high? And from a bigger picture standpoint, you look at what the Nats have done this season with the new analytics-based process, with the improved coaching, turning Curtis Mead and Luis Garcia Jr. into tremendous offensive forces, and now trading each guy. In the case of Mead, I think a return that we all would agree was impressive. Again, we'll see with Garcia, but the fact that you're getting 4 prospects for Luis Garcia Jr., that suggests to me that this is probably going to be a return that is at least somewhat enticing, if not very enticing. That's good organizational work, that you maximize Curtis Mead and Luis Garcia, and now you're able to flip these guys to get back people that could help you, and maybe sooner rather than later. In the case of Connolly early, we know that he could help the Nats as soon as this season, if not next season. We'll see what the Nats get for Garcia, but I think this is the kind of thing that you say, okay, the process here is what you want to see from your front office and what you want to see from your organization. And so I do applaud the Nats from that regard.
Yeah. And again, let's see. And I'm guessing that as we keep recording this, we may find out more about who they're getting. The most interesting thing to me throughout all of this, and it applies to Foster Griffin and it did to Curtis Mead and anything else they do, are they acquiring anybody who is big league ready or maybe close to big league ready? Are they acquiring anybody who could make a real difference and help your chances in 2027, as opposed to somebody who's not going to be here until 28, 29, and beyond. I think that is a huge part of this. I think at the start of the season, you would think that the focus is more on 28, 29, and beyond. But the way they've played this year and what they've now seen they have, I would hope that it has convinced some people in the front office that the window could be open a lot sooner than that, and that there could be ways to add pieces now who can help you next year and not have to wait too far down the road. Now, 4 prospects, that's a lot. The terminology right now is prospect, not big leaguer, but let's see. That can mean a few different things. But I would really like to see at least one of these 4, if not 2 of them, be players who can help them have a chance at having a better season in 2027.
I mean, Luis Garcia Jr., as he is being traded right now, is number 1 among all qualified National League players in slugging percentage. I mean, let that sink in for a moment. Number 1 among all qualified NL players in slugging percentage at .560. That's who Luis Garcia Jr. became for this team this season. Just unbelievable. I mean, imagine your August 2nd self telling your opening day self that Luis Garcia Jr. on August 2nd would be first among qualified players in the NL in slugging percentage. Really just is shocking what he ended up doing for this team this season. Well, as we are rolling along on this ultra unique installment of the Nats Chat podcast, we have now gotten word of the 4 prospects who the Nats are getting from the Yankees for Luis Garcia Jr. Mark, what can you tell us?
Well, they're not all necessarily prospects in the true sense. 2 of the 4 are big leaguers already. They're all pitchers. They're all right-handers. The 2 big leaguers are Yovanny Cruz, who has 4 games of MLB experience as a reliever. Very limited sample here, but good numbers, at least so far. 6 strikeouts, 1 walk, 1 run allowed, and 5 1/3 big league innings so far. Jake Bird has been around a while. He's 30 years old, so he's not a prospect. He's pitched for the Rockies. He's pitched for the Yankees this season. Good strikeout numbers. Has also given up a good number of hits this year. He's already arbitration eligible next year, so he's got 3 years of control. And then the 2 true prospects that they're getting are not frontline Yankee prospects. One of them is Jack Cebert, a double-A right-hander who's rated their 14th best prospect by MLB Pipeline. The other is Ben Grable, another right-hander at double-A, who is their 25th rated prospect. So you're talking double-A. One of them's 24 years old, both 24 years old. So those are guys who are projected to be in the big leagues maybe at some point in 2027. Not quite there yet, but the other 2 are obviously already big leaguers. One of them a veteran. One of them, Cruz, just recently or has had a little bit of big league experience this year. So I think that's interesting. You are addressing the team's biggest need, bullpen help right now. One of them, Jake Bird, is not the guy who's going to make or break this trade. Another one who could have a bright future in Cruz. And then the 2, hopeful long-term solutions in the other 2 players who are still in the minors. So instant reaction to that, not bad. I'm glad they got some big league help. I think I might have preferred that they got maybe 1 less prospect, but 1 higher ranked prospect than that. You're talking 14th and 25th. So those are not sure things by any means. But for a year and 2 months of control of Luis Garcia, that seems like a decent haul for them.
The Yankees do generally have a good farm system, so to get 2 top 25 prospects from them, there's something there. Cebert's name had been coming up throughout the day on Sunday as potentially being involved in a Nats trade with the Yankees involving Luis Garcia Jr. Yeah, I mean, again, I think you look at it big picture where Luis Garcia Jr. was versus where he is, and I don't know that you can be that upset about this. Now, if you were on the team of I want the Nats to be all in on trying to make the postseason this season. I don't want them doing something like trading a key bat in Luis Garcia Jr. Then you're not going to be happy with this trade. Understand that. But again, from a bigger picture standpoint, from an asset management standpoint, I think it's hard to be displeased with what the Nats have done here. Now, to the point about how real is this from Luis Garcia Jr., what do you think about that? Now, we have seen him have decent seasons prior to this season. So it's not like him doing well this season has come out of nowhere, but him doing this well this season has come out of nowhere. Do you think Luis Garcia Jr. has risen to another level as a hitter to where that's now who he is? Maybe not this good, but now he's at another level as compared to where he was prior to this season? Or do you think there is some fool's gold with this to where he could come back tumbling down next season or the season after that?
I think it kind of depends how the Yankees use him and work with him. And we know that they have some other pretty big names there. And they are a team that can afford to platoon somebody like Luis Garcia, which is what the Nats were doing. He did not get many at-bats against lefties. If you continue to do that and let him face almost entirely righties and put him somewhere in a lineup with the other thunder that they've got in that group, and we've seen how he's been able to pull the ball in the air this year. Well, right field at Yankee Stadium is a nice place to pull the baseball and put up some big numbers. I've got to believe that he has a chance to continue to be successful if used that way, and if the Yankees kind of continue to preach to him what the Nationals have done. And my guess is that they would. They are a forward-thinking organization. I think he'll be motivated. I could see him continuing to have success there. Now, is he going to be this kind of hitter for the next 5 to 7 years? I don't know. And there's always going to be this question of, well, is he a good enough first baseman to play all the time? Is he good enough to be able to play every day and still start against lefties? Or is he really just a platoon bat? Does he end up being viewed as more of a DH than anything else? I think that could hurt him in the long run. But in the short term, I think he can continue to be a really productive slugger, which is what he has become, by swinging at the right pitches, hitting the ball hard in the air, and taking advantage of Yankee Stadium. That seems like a pretty good fit to me.
Al Galdi here to tell you about Window Nation. But before that, the Window Nation look into the future.
Riley Adams, the Wings catcher. The 2-1. Swing and a line drive in a shallow center. Franklin on the run. Lays out and makes the catch.
For replacement windows and doors without the hassle, just look up Window Nation. Window Nation is the real deal. Homeowners across the country love the one-day installation process, especially since Window Nation installers leave your home cleaner than when they started. And this month, you can get 50% off all window styles, plus 0 down, 0 interest, and no payments for 2 years. That's a lot of savings on top of quality windows and doors. 866-90NATION or windownation.com, and tell Window Nation that you want the deal that you heard about from Al Galdi on the Nats Chat podcast. Window Nation, the real deal when it comes to replacement windows and doors. 866-90NATION, windownation.com, and tell Window Nation that you want the deal that you heard about from Al Galdi on the Nats Chat podcast.
Having a daily routine is crucial. For me, daily walks with my dog are a non-negotiable part of my wellness routine to get some fresh air and clear my mind. And after those walks, it's easy to grab my favorite all-in-one nutrition shake and take it wherever I'm off to next with Kachava's new travel packs. One easy-to-use packet provides complete nutrition ready for life on the go with protein, fiber, vitamins and minerals, greens, probiotics, omegas, electrolytes, and more. Kachava has 8 great flavors, including chocolate, vanilla, chai, matcha, coconut acai, strawberry, coffee, and my favorite, backed by popular demand, chocolate mint. Take your daily ritual with you. Go to Kachava.com and use code SPORTS for 15% off your first order. That's Kachava, spelled Kachava.com, and code SPORTS.
Hi, Ryan Reynolds here for Mint Mobile. Are you looking for a beach read this summer? May I suggest your big wireless bill? It's got suspense, mystery, a slightly flat, emotional arc, and a shocking twist where you realize you've been overpaying the entire time. Fortunately, though, Mint's story is better. Every plan, $15 a month, even unlimited. That's it. Happy ending, 0 tears. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3 months, $90 for 6 months, or $180 for 12-month plan required. $15 per month equivalent. Taxes and fees extra. Initial plan term only. Greater than 50 gigabytes may slow when network is busy. See terms.
Here's the set for Richie. And the pitch to Chaparro. Look out, and that one hit him in the head. Oh, my. The Nationals will tie the game on the hit by pitch. Chaparro is down in the batter's box. Blake Butera and John Catridis are the trainer coming out. Chaparro's now pushed himself up to his knees. Game tied at 1, but the concern for Chaparro, who gets nailed in the head with a wayward curveball.
Well, as for the Nats losing this game on Sunday afternoon and completing this 4-game sweep at the Braves, so the Nats offense has gone cold. The Nats, over the 4 games at the Braves, totaled a mere 11 runs. The Nats, during this current 5-game losing streak, have totaled just 13 runs. We have not seen this shockingly great Nats offense have a sustained slump at any point this season. I wouldn't call this right now like a sustained slump, but we are looking at a 5-game stretch during which the offense has not done much. And this, of course, has always been the fear with this Nats team this season. If the offense does go cold for a lengthy period of time, what happens with this team? And, hopefully we're not seeing the offense go cold for a lengthy period of time. But lately, this has been uncharacteristic when it comes to the 2026 Nats. The offense doing what it has been doing over these 5 games. So the Nats on Sunday afternoon in this 4-2 loss, 2 runs, 4 hits, all of which were singles, 1 for 6 with runners in scoring position, 11 strikeouts. Did draw 5 walks, but otherwise, once again, the offense just not doing much. It really stood out the extent to which the Nats got out-homered in this series. And again, you look at a 4-game series, just 11 runs, you would think in at least 1 or 2 of the games, this Nats offense would have done what it has done so often this season, and that is be really good. We never saw that in this series.
No, and that does concern me moving forward because you've now taken Curtis Mead out of the equation, and you've now taken Luis Garcia out of the equation. That's a lot to make up for. And James Wood has not been that great this week. CJ Abrams had been red hot. He cooled off a little bit here over the weekend. Dylan Cruz continues to hit the ball hard, but not have a lot of success doing it. Brady House has had some success, but not a lot. Who are you really counting on now to lead the way? You're going to need Wood and Abrams to play at that MVP level the rest of the way. And then you're going to need others who've had their moments, but maybe not consistently. You're going to need them to step up here and be more of a consistent threat at the plate. And I'm talking Cruz and Lyle and House and the catchers. I think we will probably be seeing Abimelec Ortiz in Philadelphia, becoming the new left-handed first baseman and sharing that job with Andres Chaparro. Could be a promising bat acquired in the Mackenzie Gore trade. We saw him for just a day up here in the big leagues before. He's had some pretty good power numbers at AAA, but let's see. He's not proven yet. They're going to need to get this from a lot of different sources, and it will be fascinating at the end of this year when we look up at what their final offensive numbers are. Are they about to go through a 2-month depression? And we get to the end of the year and we say, hey, remember when the Nats were the number 1 offense in baseball? Yeah, they didn't finish that way. And if so, is that tell you just how important Garcia and Mead were to that equation?
Well, we have discussed, and this is more an early season conversation, but we have discussed, is there a market correction coming? And the offense kept going along to where we stopped having that conversation because it didn't seem fair anymore. This is what the offense is. I mean, I think what becomes abundantly clear now is it is Dylan Cruz time. It is Brady House time. This cannot just be the James Wood, CJ Abrams show. It is well past the point of Cruz and House needing to be offensive forces at the major league level. Well, here's your opportunity, okay? Mead gone, Garcia gone. I think it is step-up time for Cruz and House, so hopefully we do see that over these final 2 months. Now, you mentioned Andres Chaparro. He, for this game, was the Nats starting first baseman and number 9 batter, with Luis Garcia Jr. being a late scratch. Chaparro 0 for 1, drew a bases-loaded hit by pitch, which came via him being hit on his batting helmet in the Nats' 2-run fourth. Didn't immediately exit the game, but did eventually exit the game. Was replaced by Brady House as the Nats first baseman, and that's a conversation to have because that's the first time that House has played first base in a regular season game in his major league or minor league career. But regarding Chaparro, I know manager Blake Butera told you that Chaparro has passed a concussion test, so he looks to be okay. Is that right?
Yeah, now there was some concern. He stayed in the game for 1 inning, but then was reported being a little dizzy, and so you, of course, get him right out of there. They went to the concussion protocol test, and he passed it. Now, let's see. These things can change, getting on an airplane to Philadelphia and then wake up on Monday morning, who knows? So we have seen, unfortunately, players in the past who looked like they might be okay and maybe passed an initial test, but that's something you have to keep an eye on. Hopefully, it isn't anything serious and he's going to be fine. But this tells you all you need to know about the nature of this game. You have Garcia scratched late, Chaparro replacing him at first base. Garcia's there on the bench watching all along. He's still on the active roster. But obviously, they knew they were working on this trade and were going to hold him out at all costs. Well, you have the emergency situation comes up. And The fact that they were not willing to put Garcia in and would rather put Brady House, who has taken some ground balls at first base in the last week, but had never played it as a professional before in a game, that tells you they knew the Garcia deal was very close to done and that they were respecting the Yankees to the extent that they were not going to play Luis Garcia, I guess, unless they'd literally exhausted everybody else on the bench and could not field a team of 9 players. That's how committed they were to it, that they were willing to put Brady House out there for the second half of this game in a position he's never played before. It's not an ideal position. And Blake Butera admitted that he didn't love having to do that, but he understood what the assignment was in that situation.
Yeah, it's really hard. Really hard. No other way to put it. But yeah, it's just part of it the way it is.
Well, but this now raises this item. So it was a few days ago that Brady House noticeably was doing work at first base prior to a game. And you're never sure about something like that. Is it a something or is it a nothing? You know, a while back, we saw Luis Garcia Jr. doing work at first base, and we didn't know what to make of that. Well, sure enough, it ended up meaning a whole lot. On the flip side, we had the Riley Adams scenario where we got told that he was going to get some time at first base, and he did some work at first base, and that ended up being a whole lot of nothing. So you're never quite sure what to make of this. Here we had House a few days ago doing work at first base. Now he gets inserted into this game as a first baseman. Do you anticipate us seeing more of Brady House at first base, or do you think this was just a super unique situation and that we will see him just play third base down the stretch here this season?
I'm going to say for now, this is an emergency situation and not something to keep an eye out on. The way it was presented to us afterwards is that they were doing that, understanding that a situation could arise in the course of a game where you might need to pull somebody and maybe move him from third or bring him off the bench, whatever that is. And so they just wanted him to start to get comfortable enough with it that he could play if needed. That said, he was not really ready for this. And you saw it was awkward. He did not look very comfortable out there. Some of that was his infielders not making nice throws right at his chest either.
Whenever Chappie went down, I knew that I had to go out there and at least do the best I could to play first base today and just do the best I could to help the team out.
In the long run, maybe they would look at him and say, we're not so sure that third base is your position, so we would consider that someday. But as far as the rest of this year, no, I think they would much rather worry about his bat and letting him stay comfortable at the position that he has now played for several years in the minors at third base. I presume we're going to see Abimelec Ortiz and Andres Chaparro at first base. And then later on down the road, kind of like you saw with Garcia, maybe there's a conversation someday about, we think his future might be at first. And then you really work with him on that in a more of a controlled environment, like throughout an entire spring training. That's not something you really want to have to do mid-season with a young player like that, especially if it's not absolutely necessary. I don't think it is absolutely necessary right now.
It'll be interesting to see how House does defensively down the stretch. Remember, when he got demoted to AAA Rochester, it wasn't just a platoon split thing. He was really struggling defensively at third base, of having actually been pretty good defensively last season.
Imagine buying your kid a toy only to find the batteries aren't included, or buying furniture but missing the tools to build it. Frustrating, right? Now imagine the exact same feeling, but you're paying way more. That is what buying business software usually feels like. Fragmented, disconnected, and incredibly expensive. Odoo completely changes that. Odoo is a complete, fully integrated business suite where all your apps actually talk to each other. We're talking automated lead routing for your sales team, seamless AI integration, and intuitive point-and-click website builder. It's everything your business needs to scale, saving you time, headaches, and money. Stop piecing your software together. Go to odoo.com. That's odoo.com to learn more.
Here's the set of the pitch. Swinging a ground ball toward the middle. Abrams to his left has it to the right side of the infield. His throw is off the glove of House. Runner breaking for the plate. Riley will score. The Braves lead 3-2. Oh, my.
You mentioned some of the throws to Brady House in this game. So the Nats starting pitcher was Cade Cavalli. Bottom of the fifth, he allowed an unearned run on a one-out opposite field double by Austin Riley to right field. And then what went down as a one-out throwing error by shortstop CJ Abrams. This on a first pitch grounder up the middle by Jim Jarvis for a 3-2 Braves lead. Now, the throw was high, could have been caught by the first baseman, but like we just talked about, the first baseman was Brady House. And in a circumstance like that, you'd like for your infielder to help a brother out, maybe give him a nice throw. That did not happen there. This ended up being a wretched series for CJ Abrams defensively. He committed an error in each of the final 3 games. We, on the last installment of the podcast, had a pretty lengthy discussion about where Abrams is at defensively. To me, he's not a major league shortstop, and I think the sooner his time at shortstop ends, the better. In terms of Cade Cavalli, so he in this game allowed 3 runs, 2 earned in 6 innings, gave up 6 hits, which were 2 home runs, a double, and 3 singles, had 3 strikeouts versus 1 walk, threw a good number of strikes, 90 pitches, 57 strikes, 33 balls. Did give up the home run, bottom of the third, allowed a run, gave up a leadoff first pitch homer by Mike Yastrzemski to right center field to put the Braves up 1-0. Bottom of the fourth, allowed a run, and giving up a leadoff homer by Matt Olson to right field to tie the game at 2. Boy, did Matt Olson kill the Nats in this series, but in a series in which the starting pitching was not especially good. Jake Irvin in Game 1, Foster Griffin in Game 2, Miles Michaelis in Game 3. You got 3 runs, 2 earned in 6 innings from Cade Cavalli, and you look at what he has done now over his last 8 starts. ERA at 2.58, 51 strikeouts, 9 walks. I know he wasn't necessarily dominant in this outing, but given the opposition, another good outing, I thought, from Cade Cavalli, continuing this impressive stretch.
Yeah, really just 2 mistake pitches, one of them to Yastrzemski, one of them to Olson, both of them turning into home runs. He's been so good at keeping the ball in the yard this year, only 10 homers allowed coming into this game. So that's been unusual, but they were mistakes. And outside of that, he did fine. He got through it. He was hurt by the defense. The other run was unearned. What I love in the bigger picture with Cavalli is he is starting to establish a consistency here. And it's not like, wow, he was great for a couple of starts, but then he completely fell apart after that. His quote-unquote bad starts have still been pretty solid for them, and his good starts have been outstanding. That's a great sign as you move forward with the idea of him being either their number 1 or number 2 starter in the long run. We talked about it so much with other young, promising pitchers they've had. You're not going to be in peak form every time out. If you can make sure that those days that you're not perfect, you're still acceptable and still give you a quality start, which is what Cavalli did in this game, that's how you become a frontline starter in the big league. So I'm very encouraged by that aspect of what he's done this year.
And there was a time when we would have thrown a parade for him pitching this well in a game at a team like the Braves. And now it's like you come to expect it. Like this is now a new normal with Cade Cavalli, which is maybe the biggest endorsement of all in terms of where he's at. The Nats relief pitching for this 4-2 loss at the Braves on Sunday afternoon. 2 Nats relievers combined to allow 1 run unearned in 2 innings. Orlando Revolta, 1 run unearned, 1 inning. Bottom of the 7th allowed an unearned run thanks to a throwing error that he committed. He made an errant throw to second base as Mauricio Dubon stole second base. Dubon advanced to third on the throwing error, ended up scoring. Max Kranick did toss a perfect bottom of the 8th. But that throwing error by Orlando Revolta, so emblematic of the Nats in this series. This was a sloppy series for the team defensively. This was a series in which we saw the team struggle offensively, especially with runners in scoring position. When you're facing a high-level team like the Braves, playing like that is not conducive to success. And I just felt like that throwing error by Revolta, that was like the cherry on top of the sundae that was the Nats' poor play over these 4 games.
Let's be clear about this. If you came into this series believing still that the Nationals could be a contender and could at least hold their own against the Braves and convince the front office to go into buy mode here at the deadline, pretty much everything they showed us was that no, they were not. Now, that doesn't mean that they can't still become that or that they haven't already been much better than that this season, but boy, do they pick a bad time to play their worst baseball in a long time, and it encompasses everything, and the defense is part of it for sure. And even just beyond that, and you never truly know what is going on in a guy's head when he's on the field. But it sure felt like these guys were spooked by the bright lights, that they felt the pressure of the importance of this series, knowing the trade deadline was coming up. This was not a loose, carefree team. This was a team that played tight, that did not look up to the challenge, and that, frankly, I think made it pretty easy for Paul Taboni to say, this has been a tremendous season for them in terms of progress, and it has helped speed up the timeline in the long run. But is this team ready to truly contend right now? No, it sure doesn't look like that. And I think that was on display throughout this series.
I understand the Nats fan who is upset that the Nats again are selling, but I don't think it's fair to say that Paul Taboni has tapped out on the season. I think Paul Taboni is doing what is in the best interest of the organization, and I don't think there's anything wrong with prioritizing 2027 and 2028 over 2026. And you know what? As mediocre as the National League wildcard race teams are, the Nats still are not out of this, okay? They still are in the mix. It doesn't look great, especially if the team does what we expect, and that is trade Foster Griffin. But, who knows what can end up happening here. Now, as we are recording, some more developments. The Philadelphia Phillies game at the Baltimore Orioles has been called off, has been deemed a rain-shortened game, the rare rain-shortened game. So it's an 8-0 win for the Phillies at the O's. We also, on Sunday afternoon, had the Arizona Diamondbacks losing at the Cleveland Guardians 5-0. So the Nats now are 4.5 games behind the Diamondbacks and the Phillies for the National League's second and third of 3 wild card spots. Have you enjoyed this breaking news installment of Nats Chat? I don't think we've ever had an episode like this where we've had these developments happening as we are recording.
The only one that we've had was the day that Mike Rizzo and Davey Martinez were fired, and we were in the middle of recording it. And that day we decided to shut it down and start all over again, understandably so. We kind of knew how this might go and decided we'll just react to it in real time. You have a lot more experience doing live sports talk radio than I ever do. Did this feel more like that to you? That this is what I imagine that must be like. And I got to admit, I was a little out of my element. Hopefully I held up my end of the bargain here, trying to react in real time as we were learning all these things.
No, you very much did. This was fun. This was something, I don't think you want to do it for every episode of a podcast, but, once every 6 years, it's something different. It breaks up the monotony of the season. So I enjoyed it. And we'll have a lot more to discuss, obviously, on the next installment of the podcast when the trade deadline will have passed. It's interesting, too. Other leagues, NFL, NBA, NHL, their trade deadlines are 3 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Eastern. MLB has it at 6 p.m. Eastern, right on the doorstep of games starting on Monday evening. And I don't know, does MLB do that on purpose to create this environment of chaos? Does MLB not think about this? But, that really makes for a wild situation in terms of the later afternoon, early evening hours when your deadline is at 6 instead of 3 or 4.
Yeah, it's a good question. Let's remember that for many, many years, it was set July 31st, no matter what. And then a few years ago, they realized that doesn't always line up well with the schedule. When it might be on a weekend, it might be as games are in the middle of being played sometimes. Because I can think of a few games over the years where it was at 4 o'clock and the team was playing at 1 or at 3 or 4, something like that. I think that their resolution after all that was to say, let's make sure it's on a weekday, first of all, ideally not when games are actually taking place, but have it leading up to the start of games. You also got to remember, yes, we're East Coast centric, but you want to give the teams on the West Coast a chance to not just have to be up at the crack of dawn and only have a few hours to do things. So it allows them to at least make it to 3 p.m. with it. I don't know that there's a right answer to how best to do it, but it does create a scenario, kind of like we saw on Sunday, where they could be announcing a lineup in the afternoon and having to make changes at 6 o'clock, or maybe we won't get lineups, or maybe we won't know who's officially on the 26-man roster for the game until closer to game time. It's going to be fascinating to see how this goes, not just for the Nationals, but for other teams as well. Remember, it's a 6:40 start in Philadelphia, not a 7 o'clock start. So it's really tight and compressed. We will see. It's going to be an eventful day one way or the other. And for all we know, as we prepare to hang up here and Tim starts to edit and publish this episode at about 6 o'clock on Sunday, we don't know what else may happen before the end of this night. By the time you all listen to this episode, who knows who else they may have traded or acquired, and we'll just do our best to keep you as informed as we can whenever we know what we know.
Yeah, the other thing, too, is the deadline is at 6. Sometimes you don't learn about trades until after a trade deadline. So, 6 could come and go, and then we find out that the Nats did something, but we don't find that something out until 6:15, 6:20, just to make things even more complex. The Nats have this 4-game series at the Philadelphia Phillies. For Game 1, no listed probable starting pitcher, though Blake Butera, during his pregame session with reporters on Sunday morning, did say that the Nats were likely to go with a bullpen game for Monday evening.
Let me throw one other possibility out there, and we haven't had time to even look into any of this, but Jackson Kent, a left-hander at AAA, was supposed to start Sunday and was scratched. Abimelec Ortiz, by the way, was also scratched, an indication that he could be joining them in Philly. We'll see. They may just be what if, just in case, let's have a guy who's ready. But one of the many possibilities for Monday could be Jackson Kent making his Major League debut.
And my favorite thing from Sunday is that the Nats for Game 4 at the Phillies listed Foster Griffin as their probable starting pitcher. Raise your hand if you expect Foster Griffin to make that start for the Nats. Would be nice if he did, but I don't know that any of us are counting on that. Hit us up on X at Nats_chat. You can find us on Blue Sky at Nats Chat Podcast. You can email us natschatpodcast@gmail.com. All Nationals radio highlights on Nats Chat are courtesy of 106.7 The Fan. For Mark Zuckerman, I'm Al Goldie. Thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you next time on the Nats Chat Podcast.
Swing and a drive hit well to center field. This is way back. Taylor to the warning track. It is gone. Goodbye. Bang! Zoom goes Luis Garcia Jr. with his second home run of the night. A laser beam onto the batter's eye berm, clearing the center field wall. And he gives the Nationals a run of insurance for Kyle Finnegan, warming for the ninth. They're on their feet here at Nationals Park, the red and light whites flashing. Home run number 9 for Garcia, and it's now the Nationals by 2 here in the bottom of the 8th. It's Washington 7, New York 5.